It's so good to see you, Guy. It really is. You and I have been covering the 49ers for a very, very long time, together collectively at the same station at different places. We've been around this team for a really long time. And I do think this is the most pressure to win it all since I've covered the team. And I've covered this team going to 2 Super Bowls, but it hasn't quite felt like this one because the rest, the health, the talent, the way that the playoffs and the league has broken around them, it just feels like all arrows are pointed to you better get to Las Vegas. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. There's not a scenario where you can not get to Las Vegas and be able to explain away how you lost to the Packers at home, the Bucks at home, Jared Goff at home. There's no world where that's not anything shy of a 10 out of 10. Is DEFCON 1 the worst one? I think DEFCON 1 is the worst one.
The only thing after DEFCON 1 is World War III itself. So,
Okay. So pull out the B-21s, the new stealth bombers. We just spent $2.3 billion per bomber. I think the Air Force bought 100 of them. You're going to need them all if you lose somewhere before the Super Bowl, which, by the way, they have to win 2 games in a row to get to the Super Bowl. They're favored by 9 against the Packers this week. 9.5, 10. I think they beat the Packers this week. Most people do. They're going to have the pregame on Fox, and every single little box at the bottom is going to have the Niner logo in it, right? Hopefully Terry Bradshaw or somebody, whoever, I don't know, picks the Packers because, anytime it's unanimous, it's scary.
Right.
But it's a lot harder to actually do what you're supposed to do. A lot of people are supposed to do things that don't get done. So they still got to go do it. And anything shy of doing it is going to be, for everything you just mentioned, they've been here before. They've been close before. It feels like Kyle Shanahan's had 2 shots at it now, one as a coordinator, one as a head coach. Your roster construction, the cost of your roster, the age of your best players, they're all in their prime. This quarterback you fell into, the way the NFC has laid out the red carpet for you, the way that you earned the 1 seed and rest, and then Green Bay is coming in on a short week, back-to-back road games, and then you'll have, if you beat them, the rest advantage over the team that you play the next week at home. If you get Baltimore, you've played them already. They beat your ass, but okay, you played them. And on top of all of it, the cherry that I can think of one person that might appreciate this cherry more than you, Damon, but you're going to be near the top of the list of people that appreciate this cherry. The Super Bowl is in the stadium that houses the Raiders. It's the Raiders stadium. It's their stadium. And I know they moved and you're not a rival anymore. They had to stop playing preseason games against each other. The rivalry was so violent. They're in the same stadium, Damon. So it's all too perfect. And when it's perfect, you start thinking about all the things that can go wrong.
Right. I mean, look, conceptually, the Carolina Panthers could roll into Levi's and beat the 49ers. That's how this league works. There's no such thing as you cannot lose this game, which is why the league is so popular in the first place. Do you think, any casual fan looking for a path to beat the Green Bay Packers quickly sees a run game advantage that the 49ers need to exploit? I mean, I think that the path to the NFC title game is to have a Raheem Mostert level type of afternoon where you're just running to the point where there's plenty of jokes about Brock on Monday. If he trusted his quarterback more, he would have thrown more, but I'm a big believer in stick with what works while it's working. Guy, do you think that Kyle suffers from a little too cute or too smart for his own good? Instead of sticking with what works, his quest to set up what might work next sort of takes him off the X marks the spot of, hey, we're moving the football.
There have been a few times where I've thought, I think he's being too cute here, but not a lot. I mean, it happened when he tried to put Trent Williams in motion against was that the Rams game last year?
Yeah.
In short yardage. And it was like, all right, that was too cute. But I think it's, you got to take every bit of a person's personality or skill set and far more often than not, when you think about the guys who have been offensive geniuses, they tend to err on the side of too cute, and Kyle doesn't. And it's because of what, you were talking about, which is he's dedicated to the run game. If you're dedicated to the run and you care most about the run and the physicality that being that type of football team is, then you care a little bit more about substance than style. Now, Kyle cares about style. He wears the joggers and the Jordans and the Lululemon hoodies and the flat bill snapbacks. He looks good. I do too. You do too. We all do. Good haircuts.
I remember when you and I had a long discussion about Lululemons. Can you really rock them? Can you feel good about them? And hopefully I helped bring you over to the Lulu side.
My issue with Lulu is only fit. Like I find better fit with some other brands, but I the other day I was at a press conference.
You're hooking quads. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's what it is. And Kyle was wearing a hoodie. I'm like, what is this? And everyone's like, oh, that's Lulu. It looked good. But I think for the most part, he errs on the side of substance. So yeah, sometimes they do a couple of things that's like, all right, what is this? But no more than anybody else. And I would say largely less than most offensive play callers who are also the head coach. So that doesn't concern me with him. That does not concern me with him. Now, yes, he is playing the long game, right? Which means part of his operation every week is this is a to use a cliche, but it really applies to him. It's a 4-quarter game, which means being tied at halftime just means we're going to be able to play our game in the second half. Or being up by only a touchdown at halftime just means these guys still have to defend our run for 2 more quarters. So, you'd like to see him, sure, be up 21-0 and not have to sweat it at the half against the Packers. But that goes back to trying to be, is that trying to be a little too cute? When he's giving it to McCaffrey 13 times in the first half, no one's complaining about cute because he's just doing what you or I or any other person with a blindfold could do. Let's give the ball to Christian, maybe.
Right.
And it works. So, let's not overthink it. So no, I'm not afraid of Shanahan being too cute.
Besides the word Jordan Love, or I guess it's a name, not a word. Besides the name Jordan Love.
Well, it is a word.
But right, it is. They are. They
love. Beside the word love.
What concerns you most about the Packers?
I mean, they have found their run game. Like their running back is healthy, their offensive line is healthy, and it has directly correlated to them winning games. And it's directly correlated to Jordan Love being really good. 23 touchdowns, 1 pick in the last 9. I just did a listener turned into like a researcher for me, Matt. His name's Matt, and he just sent me this little research I had him look up, and I'll probably do a video on it tomorrow. The one thing that Kyle is really good against his guys, and Matt LaFleur is one of his guys. So yeah, I would say the run game, but this game to me, Damon, is this is totally dependent on the Niners. You play your game, they can't beat you, right? The Packers A game cannot beat your A game, and I don't think it can beat your B+ game. The Ravens A game can beat your A game, maybe not. The Packers A game only beats you if you don't play your A game,
right?
So this is a game that's about the 40. This is a game about them. Is Jordan Love going to hit a big play to Christian Watson? Probably. Okay, that happens in these games. You have to score points. The Niners over-under in this game is like 30.5. That's a lot of points. The Niners team-specific over-under is 30 points. So go score points. You're one of the top offense in the league. I'm not overly concerned about, I don't know. Are they going to run the ball against the Niners? Maybe they will a little bit. That's a problem for the Super Bowl and a problem for maybe the NFC Championship game if you get Detroit. And I'm not dismissive of Green Bay. I think if you look at where the rivalries are going to be in the NFC, Green Bay all of a sudden looks like they're going to be at the top of the list, right?
Yeah.
We'll see. Does Philly, one of these teams hire Belichick, Dallas, Philly, whatever. But that's a more mature Packer team in the playoffs next year conversation, I think. I don't want to sound like I'm dismissive of them because it goes back to the beginning. Like you screw it up, you can lose the game, but I do think they have to screw it up in order to lose the game.
When it comes to, I think, the NFC playoffs, we see it the same way. There is no such thing as an easy path, but there are easier paths. And I think the easiest possible path that is never easy has been presented to the Niners. It's a young Packers team ahead of schedule in the divisional. And then you're going to be taking on either the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who you've already beaten this year, or you're going to be taking on the Detroit Lions. And with all due respect to how much fun they've been and how good and physical they are, Brock Purdy has more playoff wins in the last 60 years than the Detroit Lions. So I'm going to just lean on the side of Niners handling that at home. and that puts us in the Super Bowl. And I don't mean us as I'm in the team, but just
okay.
I,
For NFL.com, I'm Damon Bruce.
you know, I'm not one of those guys, but that would put the 49ers into the Super Bowl. What is your anti-wish list in terms of opponent? How hard? Give me, rank them 1 through 4. Want to see the least, would want to see the most. I'll assume Houston Texans would be the preferred, easiest to beat opponent. So now, how would you stack Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, right? You face Houston. They look different than they look today if you're playing the Houston Texans. You're like, they went on the road and beat Baltimore, and then they went on the road and beat either Kansas City or Buffalo.
Right. It would be a holy shit.
All of a sudden, you're like, oh, no, we want the Ravens. You know, in a weird way, I think I put the Ravens third on this list. And the reason I put the Ravens third is kind of the thinking that I just described to you, which is it's easy to look at Kansas City like coming in the playoffs and go, they don't really have the weapons, right? But the version of the Ravens that you see in the Super Bowl has beaten the Texans at home and then either Buffalo or Kansas City at home, which would be really impressive. But the version of the Chiefs that you would see in the Super Bowl is a version that's gone on the road to Buffalo and won and gone on the road to Baltimore and won. So that means that they have found it on offense because their defense is good. The version of the Bills, same deal. They just beat the Chiefs. They get over on Mahomes in the playoffs. Finally, they haven't done that yet. And then they go on the road and beat Baltimore, right? So I think when you are a complete team, and obviously Lamar, we saw Lamar, like he's a special player. He's going to win the MVP. Mahomes or Josh Allen would scare me more in the Super Bowl for the same reason Mahomes beat you last time, right? You can have the better team. You can have the better defense. You can have the better run game. That coach can go toe-to-toe with your coach, which the other two coaches I don't think do, but Andy Reid can do that with Kyle. Kicked their ass last year. Don't forget about that game at home. So Kansas City is number 1 on my list of the teams I don't think the Niners want to see. And I know they don't necessarily look like it, but just imagine what it feels like if that team wins at Buffalo, at Baltimore, and then here's the guys that kicked your ass last year and stole your Super Bowl from you the last time.
Right.
And it's Andy Reid with an extra week. What? Right? Andy off a bye, right? And it's Mahomes. So I go Kansas City 1, Buffalo 2, Baltimore 3, Houston 4 in terms of like the last team that you want to face. And that's understanding that Baltimore took it from them when they played this year. Baltimore beat them. I would pick the Niners in a rematch with them, though.
I would too, as long as.
What do you think? Who's your number 1?
So you stacked it exactly the way I would stack it, to be totally honest with you. And I know that doesn't make for great back and forth banner or yelling at each other, but I agree with you implicitly. I think that Mahomes and Andy Reid and the best defense they've had can probably, again, it feels like Mahomes is playing the other team and his own wide receivers at certain points in time. He's still he's a monolithic figure of excellence. He really is. So I would be afraid of that. And then Buffalo, just lots of weapons everywhere, lots of momentum coming in. Should they be, and that would be riding, a 10-game winning streak if they were to reach the Super Bowl or 9, whatever it is. So that would be something to be concerned about. And then again, Baltimore, they're very good. I'm not trying to discredit them, but I would like the Niners in a little bit of a, let's see if they don't step all over their own dicks rematch like they did in the first Christmas night game. And then, with all due respect, a very good but still ahead of schedule Houston team comes in, 4th out of 4. So you and I see that the same way. It's a very interesting day around the NFL because a few decisions that I thought would be made quickly as 2 NFC East teams are trying to win the race to the rights to negotiate with Bill Belichick, because I don't see him taking that Falcons job now that these other jobs could be coming open. But it is a hats in hands day afternoon in the NFL for both Nick Sirianni and Mike McCarthy. Do you think either one of those coaches survives that meeting?
Wait, did you say Mike McDaniel?
No, Mike McCarthy.
Oh, Mike McCarthy and Sirianni?
In Syria, yeah. So today they're both having the please don't fire me, I've got more to prove meetings with their owners.
I got to go against the odds, which you would say at least one of them's got to make it, right? I don't think either one of them should make it. I think it's been clear for more than a season that neither one of them is up to the task of winning a Super Bowl. I thought last year the Eagles should have seriously considered hiring one of their assistant coaches that was about to leave them. And the reason for them is their head coach can't solve their problem for them. If he's not going to have a physical, tough team, well, then he better be one of the coordinators, and he's not one of those. They already tried to make him the OC, Damon. It was year one. They took play calling from him. That organization has had to change coordinators midstream twice in the last 3 years. That's bad. And on top of that, they're not tough. They don't tackle. I was watching the Manning cast the other night, Damon. Have you watched much of the Manning cast?
I have. Yeah, it's good.
Ray Lewis was beside himself. He's like, what are these guys doing on defense? They can't tackle. Why can't they tackle? Look at these angles. This is awful. And then you hear, you get the now I don't know, Javon Hargrave's comments about basically we don't really practice hard in Philly and we practice hard here. I'm not sure if that's a reflection on Sirianni or just the Eagles' organizational philosophy on, rest days and that sort of thing. But I think they got to change coaches. And I think Dallas has to. I think they have to if they want to. Jerry's 81 years old. I don't think he's not getting sick of giving post-game press conferences, but he's getting sick of giving post-game press conference after playoff losses.
Right, the same one every year.
The same one every year. They did the thing where they gave the coach the play calling duties this year, and they scored a bunch of points. Congratulations. You are the point differential champions. But you look the same in the playoffs. And then you've got this incredible, what if they hired Mike Tomlin? What if they hired Bill Belichick? What if they hired Mike Vrabel, right? The list of the list of coaches that are available are all superior to their coach. All of them. Well, not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah, no, I can't believe Bill Belichick isn't looking for Dallas real estate today. Like I can't believe that Jerry doesn't already have it done. Like bird in the air, private plane flying to New England about halftime of that loss to the Packers. I'm surprised it's not already done. It is great to catch up with you. We could just keep talking.
So what happens now? You just go on without me for another?
Yeah, for a little bit. I've got a dentist appointment, so I'm going to be wrapping it up a little.